Good afternoon, Steven Special Podcast viewers. I'm Steven, and this is
I'm Neal Martin, Fort Smith Board of Directors.
and this is episode number 5 in the special location right now, eating some Steven Special, him with veggies.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. It's awesome.
Me with a regular Steven Special. And
this is a staple in Fort Smith. It really is.
It is a staple. And I don't know if you can see it in the background over here, but that's me. That's me.
Steven,
Thank
right
you.
there.
So, viewers, this is just going to be like a cool experience. You get to see everything that's happening. And don't knock it till you try it. Really, don't knock it. I eat my Steven Special with ketchup.
Oh, wow.
It's a weird thing, but
They just dropped the ketchup off, and I had no idea what that was for.
yes, I eat this all the time like it is. So, Neal, thank you so much for coming on my show.
Well, I wanted to tell you, just we were talking off camera. We had a birthday here, not at this restaurant, but the one on Rogers Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 11 of us for my daughter's birthday. And out of 11 of us, 8 people got the Steven Special. So, I mean, it's very well known, very well loved, and you are famous because of this. Another story, we were going down to Panama City Beach last year as part of our family vacation. And we stopped at we rented a place in Hot Coffee, Mississippi. Nobody knows where that is. But we ended up going into Collins, Mississippi. Collins is right on the way to Florida.
Mm.
And we stopped at this Mexican place and went in, and my wife says, "Hey, I'd like a Steven Special." And what she didn't realize is that Steven Special is just specific to La Huerta. And so the lady was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." But what we did, we told her exactly what it was. Basically, Steven Special is now branching out to Mi Casita in Collins, Mississippi. So you're getting more and more famous.
Every day. I mean, I've seen it in other restaurants too in Tennessee. I think one time in Washington, D.C., they called it something else. I can't remember the name of it, but it's just everywhere.
We're gonna make it famous of Steven Special.
We're gonna take it by storm.
Right.
Everywhere we can.
Right.
But no, Neal, it was a good idea to come here, have a good lunch.
No, I agree.
And talk about politics, especially for him. He is the city board of directors here in Fort Smith, Arkansas. He knows what everything is doing. Like, this is a man that you need to talk to, Fort Smith. He knows everything. So, Neal, wanted you here specifically to talk about Fort Smith politics, and then your ideas so far on what we can do better, especially for the Republican Party to branch out and win in 2026 and 2028, because those are the crucial years.
Right.
We can't afford to lose any ground, especially for President Trump.
Right.
So, Neal, let's dive into it. You are the city board of directors here in Fort Smith.
Right. One of 7.
I'm
I'm at large, which means I'm elected by the entire city of Fort Smith. So there's 3 at-large directors, again voted by everybody in Fort Smith, and then there's 4 ward directors, and they're voted on by that ward. So my race is about 90,000 people in Fort Smith. Every one of those, if you're voting age, can vote for me. So that's kind of where my race is. But yeah, I'm an at-large director for the city of Fort Smith.
Okay. So, Neal, let me ask you, are there some good ideas so far coming in through the Fort Smith city directors that, us here in Fort Smith can really be excited about?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing that people can be excited about is the F-35 mission that's just getting ramped up at Ebbing Air National Guard Base, just not too far from here. So this is a program where our allies across the world are buying F-35s from Lockheed Martin. And Fort Smith is the place that those pilots are being trained to fly. Right. And so we just had our first 2 graduates. They were from Poland. They came through the program, and as you're sitting around, as I'm working during the day, you hear the jets, you see the jets flying around. And for the last probably 3 or 4 months, they were Polish fighters with our trainers in support of them, and so they are training, and now more countries are in the process of coming over. Singapore, Italy, Greece, Germany. All these countries are going to be coming to Fort Smith to have their pilots train on this F-35 platform, and it's really going to bring a ton of people into Fort Smith. It's going to bring a lot of building activity out there on the base, and it's really, that's probably the biggest thing that we have going on right now. And when we first heard about this, what was communicated to me is this is probably the largest economic development project in the state in the last 20 years, and we are just at the very beginning point of this thing. So we're pretty excited about it. We've got pilots that are moving here, like our American pilots are moving here, that are training all these countries, and you see them around town. I've got some that I go to church with, and they're just becoming part of the community, and it's really pretty amazing when you see. You don't really understand it, but we went out there for the kind of the celebration of when the Polish folks graduated, and the speed at which this base came online, nobody thought we could do it, and the Poles didn't think we could do it. The federal government maybe even didn't think we could do it, but we were able to get it done and get it up and running. And again, it's still in its infancy, but that's really the biggest thing that's going on now, and it's just going to just continue to grow, continue to get bigger. We've got I think we've got 2 F-35s right now. We've got 2 F-16s. The Singaporean Air Force brought in 2 F-16s, but ultimately we're going to have about 48 jets out at Ebbing that'll be flying, that people will be training. And then, when we go to D.C. and we talk to our congressional delegation, we go there every year. We've been there for the last 2 years. We'll go again in October. One of the things that's been talked about is, okay, now that we've got this foreign military sales mission, is what it's called, the FMS mission, foreign military sales. Once that's up and running, and once all the building happens, where they're building additional hangars, they're building additional support areas for the pilots, the flight simulators, all those kinds of things. Once that's up and running and this mission is over, there's a push to make a permanent air mission here in Fort Smith. So if you remember back, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we had F-16s flying out of here. And then as budget cuts were happening, those got moved, and we ended up getting a drone mission here. So we've got a drone mission now, but I think the plan is that we want to maybe put a permanent mission here in Fort Smith, which would be awesome. We'd have pilots, American pilots here, have a permanent presence out at Ebbing. That would be really cool. I think that's the ultimate goal. So I think that gets me pretty excited. I think just this F-35, this foreign military sales mission in and of itself is pretty awesome. Yeah. And just the looking at what it might be here in the next few years is really pretty cool. It's really cool.
See, I was born and raised here in Fort Smith, grew up here, had the time of my life. I know Fort Smith can grow.
Yeah.
Really, I know it can truly grow into something beautiful. I don't know. Are we number 4?
Three. We're 3 right now.
The third largest city in Arkansas. Right behind, I think it's Fayetteville, correct?
Little Rock and Fayetteville. Fayetteville just passed us in 2020. And there's a whole story to that. And I mean, but right, we're number 3 right now.
See, I know we can do it. We can be number 1. And stuff like this, the foreign military sales and everything else, will propel us to the top. Because right now, this whole city is a beautiful city. If you haven't come to Fort Smith, do it. You'll have the time of your life here. We have some of the greatest, and I'm biased, I'm sorry, some of the greatest restaurants.
Some of the greatest restaurants, right. I'm with you.
and then especially too, we have Parrot Island,
Yeah.
water park.
Yep. We've got the medical school that
Yes.
that is moved out in Chaffee Crossing, and this is a very underserved area for physicians, and so having that medical school out there, we're now graduating 150 doctors a year that will. Most of them are staying in the area. I think there's maybe 70% stay in this area to be able to support, the citizens of this area. Having specialists here, having just general physicians here. I mean, is significantly helpful for us. You can have world class medical care. You have these jets here. You have all different types of jobs that are here, and kind of my thought process. I grew up here as well. I graduated high school in '94, and from when I was born in '76, kind of felt like we stagnated for maybe about 30 years. And we grew in population. Our population grew, but it felt to me like we stagnated. And when we moved back here in 2010, I spent a little time in Kansas City, but moved back in 2010.
Right.
Fort Smith looked the same. And, when I ran, my thought process was, when my kids are ready to make the decision of where they're going to go after they graduate high school or graduate college, what are they going to be thinking about? And is Fort Smith going to be a place they want to stay? Right. Or are they going to be like their dad and say, I'm ready to get out? And that's what I did. I moved to Fayetteville, graduated from the University of Arkansas, went to Kansas City. Never thought I would come back, but there was some kind of draw that drew me back. Right. And so my goal here is to implement things, provide opportunities, make this a community where those kids graduating want to stay here. They want to go to college and come back, and hopefully that's what we're doing. And we've got to make up for about 30 years worth of stagnation. And so that's really my plan. And when we see that with a medical school that never existed, with Chaffee Crossing that wasn't a thing, it was an Army base, and now it's all kinds of development. There's homes out there, restaurants, businesses, all that kind of stuff there. ArcBest, one of our biggest employers, has a second campus out there, and then this F-35 mission, and then the other things that are going on around here. Hopefully that this is the starting of that snowball, and that snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we look back 10 years, 20 years from now, and we're like, wow, look at the change, look at the difference that it's made, and we want to overtake Fayetteville again. We got to overtake them. So, and we've got Springdale's coming right behind them. Rogers and Bentonville, they're coming, but we've got to overtake that number 2 spot, and then keep our eyes on Little Rock, and try to get number 1.
So, viewers, I can't say enough about it. Fort Smith is the best place to visit and to live. So, again, come out here, have a good time, have the time of your life. Whatever it is, you find it here in Fort Smith.
You've got everything. You got everything you need.
Yeah. So, Neal, is there any stuff that's happening right now that you're kind of worried about here in Fort Smith?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we have to worry about, this probably kind of goes along with my 30 years of stagnation. We're under a federal consent decree for our sewers, our wastewater. And basically what happened in 1983, we got our first administrative order with the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, where we weren't maintaining our sewer system. And we kept getting in violation of the Clean Water Act over and over and over, or just in violation of our sewer system not functioning properly. Right. And we kept violating these administrative orders. And I've got a chart that shows from 83, 87, 91, we kept violating it. And ADEQ, the EPA, they kept say, hey, you guys got to fix your sewers.
Of course.
And we didn't do it, or we didn't do it enough. And then finally in 2015, they said, okay, Fort Smith, we're slapping a consent decree on you. And basically what the consent decree is a contract between us and the federal government, us and the EPA and the DOJ, that says we'll fix our sewers.
Right.
And it laid it out, the things that we had to do, the work that had to be done, and the time frame in which it needed to be done. Mm-hmm. And so what that involved was, first, us going through, and nobody had any idea the impact of the consent decree back in 2015. They just knew we needed to fix our sewers. And so the first step of the consent decree is to send a camera down all your sewer lines and inspect them. Right. And so they're looking at it and saying, oh, this is going to cost $200 million. The city's saying, oh, it's going to cost us about $480 million. These are big dollars, and that's pretty far off. Well, it wasn't until we got in and looked at all these lines that realized our problem was significantly worse than anybody ever thought. So you start this consent decree, and you really have no idea what the effect of it is, what the problem with your sewer is. And so once we get in there and we look at all the lines, we realize, wow, it's significantly worse than we thought. So where we're at now is looking at a total price tag of about $800 million. I mean, that's almost $1 billion. Now, we've paid between 2000, and I'm lumping in work that was done before the consent decree was enacted, but we put in about $200 million between 2000 and 2015. And since 2015, we've done about $135 million. All right. But there's probably about $650 roughly million to go. Mm-hmm. And what that means is we've got to be able to fund that. And so trying to, as a member of the board of directors, trying to make sure that we've got the dollars to be able to support it. And that comes in rates, and that comes through sales taxes, those types of things. But that's a huge amount. And the federal government wanted us to get this done in 12 years, which what we've heard is significantly less than a lot of other consent decrees. Right. I don't know all the consent decrees around the country, but it was a really short time period. And when we started it, we didn't know the extent of it. And they said, okay, we want it done in 12 years. What we've realized, there's no way we could have gotten that done in that amount of time. So we've tried to be in compliance, but it was nearly impossible to be in compliance. Right. And so we're working with the EPA and the DOJ to try to get an extension on that. We got some help. We helped ourselves recently and this year by reallocating some sales tax to allocate a complete penny, which is about $30 million, directly to the consent decree. Right. But that has been a huge burden because, we've been trying to fix the sewers. We didn't have the dollars to be able to do it. And so trying to find the money without raising rates and without raising sales tax has really been a challenge. Now, we are raising sales tax rate, or we are raising sewer rates 3.5%. That's almost kind of like a cost of living raise. So we're raising sewer rates 3.5% for the next 5 years. But then that reallocation of that sales tax for having 1% go to consent decree has been really helpful. And what we've found is it's not just making sure that we have money. Since 2020 to 2024, as most people know, inflation just went out of control. And so we know it when we go to the grocery store. We know it when we go to restaurants. We feel it. We see the costs rising. Well, that happened too on municipal government. So when we buy chemicals, when we buy supplies, when we buy equipment, all that stuff increased dramatically. So when we're saying, something cost $1 in 2015, now it's $2.50. You just multiply that by all that goes into being compliant with this consent decree, and it's been an overwhelming cost. So we've tried to manage inflation without going back to the consumer or the customer and saying, "Hey, we need to raise your rates." We had to raise them on water. We water's a separate issue. We had to raise rates for water, but we've been fortunate that we haven't had to raise rates as significantly on the sewer side. We're trying to get dollars from sales tax and in other areas, but it's really been a struggle. That is something I'm really concerned about, and that's an anchor around the neck of all Fort Smithians, because we're paying millions and millions of dollars to upgrade our sewer, and you see no benefit from it. Nobody sees it. Like, it's all in the ground, right? So it's not a sports complex, or it's not a water park or anything. It's not anything like that. It's all underground, and nobody sees it. So it's like, where's my money going? Well, it's going underground.
It's going underground.
Yeah.
So, love the fact that you were talking about the inflation from 2020. 2020 to 2024.
Mm-hmm.
That was an awful time.
It was.
Good Lord, especially with the pandemic and everything. It was just, I don't want to go back to it ever again.
Right.
But I'm hoping, and I still pray every single day, that Trump will take everything and reverse it. And he's done it so far.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of with the injunctions and with rogue judges, everything in between. The man never stops working for Americans. Never does.
Well, I think he's got a lot of opportunity for improvement.
Of course.
With what we just came through, right? So with 4 years under Biden, that was pretty tough for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's got a lot of opportunity, and I think his policies, once he gets going. I mean, we're 6 months in.
Oh yeah.
Barely 6 months in. So you're starting to see the beginning of that. I think the market, the Dow was at 44,000 yesterday. It's starting to come back. It's kind of funny. I track my net worth, and I encourage anybody to track your net worth, not how much you make, but how much your net worth is, how much you own versus how much you owe.
Mm-hmm.
And we track that every quarter. So I've tracked it for since probably 2009. And I track it by president as well. So I get to see, how their policies impact me directly. Under Obama, under his 8 years, my net worth increased about 113% over 8 years. It's not bad. So more than double. Under Trump, in his 4 years, it was about 88%, which had he had 4 more years, maybe it would have been 160%, 170%, 200%, something like that.
Right.
Under Biden, it increased, but it increased about 32%. So we saw that in the 4 years of Trump, for me, this is just for me. I mean, it could be different for everybody.
Sure.
The policies that he enacted, my wealth grew significantly more than under Obama and under Biden. And so, it'll be interesting with Trump's second term how that goes. But I'm anticipating growth. People like me, middle class folks like me, we're going to see growth in 401ks. We're going to see growth in wages. We're going to see growth in a lot of different areas. And hopefully inflation starts to slow down so that, we can take advantage of increased in wage. We don't want our wages to increase along with inflation, because you're just at zero.
Right.
So hopefully, as we're starting to see and his policies get implemented, we'll start to see that growth.
Of course. So viewers, want to tell you a funny story. Me and him were both at the inauguration 2025, one of the coldest months that I have ever felt in my entire life.
That was the last time we were together, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I believe I called you, right? Like, and asked if you were around, and you were
Well,
like,
I knew you were going,
uh-huh.
and we knew we would hook up at some point.
Sure.
But then that Sunday, the day of the rally, the day before he got inaugurated, he texted me and said, "Hey, let's get in line together."
Right.
Because you were in that line to get into the Capital One Arena. And so we just basically got a chance to hang out all day in the rain, in the sleet, in the snow, in the cold. We just stood outside for probably 8 hours before we actually got into the arena.
And viewers, it was abysmal. It was torrential downpour, rain, snow, everything in between. And stupid me, I thought just having skinny jeans on, 2 shirts, and my overcoat would have been fine. But no, that did not even cover me at all. I huddled with him and his son, right?
Yep.
And we were just inching away every single second, inching away closer to the arena. And I don't know why they had it to where, what was it? We started at one point and then we started doing a loop around.
We wrapped around a few times. I mean, it was chaotic. I mean, I don't know what I will say this.
Yeah.
I had a blast.
Of course.
I had a blast, but it was an awful day. We start and we wrap around this building, and then we go around another building, we wrap around another, and then you finally get to the Capital One Arena. But the people were cutting in line. You remember that?
Yes.
People were cutting in line, and people were getting in fights, and there were YouTubers out there. My son recognized the guy, Snape or Snope or whatever. My son recognized this dude and got his picture with him, and apparently he's a big YouTuber. But he just goes around and eggs people on. So he showed up in a Kamala shirt and all that kind of stuff.
I remember that. Yeah.
But so it's semi-orderly, even though people are cutting all over the place. It's semi-orderly.
All right.
Until we made that last turn, and then something happened. The barricades came down, and chaos. I mean, it was literal chaos. People were running, cutting, all kinds of stuff. And we got in we were in this, there was no line anymore. We were just on this street, packed with people.
Yeah.
And we were standing there, and we saw this line. We saw these little barricades.
Right.
And nobody was in that barricade. We had no idea where the barricade went. And we were like, let's just try it.
Let's just try it.
Let's just try it. So we go down this barricade. We bypass thousands of people. We cut in front of thousands of people.
Everybody was super pissed at us.
Yes.
They looked at us with the deadest stare ever. And I was like, hey.
We're just trying to get in here. And that allowed us to be able to get in and to see the rally. I mean, we were wet. I mean, it was such a relief to get inside there. It was actually warm. I think you saw Conor McGregor.
Yes.
Just walking.
I fist bumped him.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Conor, if you ever see this, I want you to be part of this podcast. I'll interview you. Let's do something cool. I'll let you beat the crap out of me. I don't even care at this point. You're the coolest man alive. But no, that experience was the best. And we were right behind Trump.
You were right behind him, yeah. I mean, it was one of those times where it's just awful. Like, just the conditions are bad.
Right.
You're uncomfortable. You're wet. You're cold. But we had a goal, right? We were gonna get in there. And we got in.
Yep.
And I remember sitting down. I was like, we hadn't sat down all day.
No.
We were probably 6-8 hours into it, and it just felt so good to sit down in the Capital One Arena, and just we could take off our gear. We had headgear on. We had scarves, jackets. We could take them off and just kind of relax for a little bit. I've never been to a Kid Rock show before. He was playing when we walked in, if you remember that. And man, he sounded awesome. He sounded really good. I'd never heard him before live. But man, it was great. And then they had speakers. They had Megyn Kelly. They had Stephen Miller, Elon Musk.
Yep.
It was a great time. I don't want to do it again, but it was a great time.
It was. It was the greatest time ever to see history come alive, especially with that man. What was it? Surviving 2 assassination attempts. Coming through hell with all those bogus charges and everything else. seeing him being triumphant and coming back from the shadows of the depths.
Yeah.
This man, Donald J. Trump, cannot be stopped. You can't stop him right now. All these legislators, all these radical judges, everything. You can't stop him. So why try? Why try stopping him? I don't understand like the opposition's hatred.
Well,
Do they hate us or do they hate Trump? I don't know.
it's really interesting. Is the opposition from the Democrats or is the opposition in the Republican Party itself? I think we see a little bit of both of that. So, I think that the people elected him, and I want him to get the opportunity to do his administration the way he wanted it.
Sure.
4 years ago or 8 years ago, when he had his first term, I don't think he really knew what it was going to be like when he got in, and I don't think it was really the Trump administration we're going to see this go around. I think he's got the right people in. I think he's got his people in, and I think he's got he's better positioned to be successful. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
Of course. I'm super excited what's going to be happening in the next couple months, especially him going to like all these was it Arab countries, getting what almost one. I'm exaggerating. I could be wrong,
A lot of
viewers.
money.
You can quote me on it. Whatever, 1.5 trillion, something like that. And all these other naysayers that say, "Oh, the tariffs are never going to work." Every single month, it's like what $1 billion coming in.
Well, think about this. Fort Smith, bring it locally. Probably the most impactful thing to Fort Smith in the last 20 years was Ream,
Right.
which right over here off of Jenny Lind. Ream left, moved the factory to Mexico, and we've still not been able to reach the levels of employment that we had when Ream left.
Right.
So we see the effects of companies moving out of the United States,
Right.
and I applaud Trump to bringing companies here. You put a tariff off on things that are made in other countries. Hopefully, that's enough incentive for people to bring business back here, to bring factories back here, manufacturing, automobile manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. So, the hope is all that happens. He's able to get that done, but we can feel that locally. I mean, we feel it, we felt it, we dealt with it, and so hopefully now we're gonna see a reversal of that.
Yeah. Of course, make everything here in America. Americans can get these jobs and just make America great again. That's the motto. That's the motto that I love to live by every single day is just making America great again. So Neal, wanted to discuss with you down the future, 2026, 2028. What do you feel is most important that we can stay on this path of winning for America and keeping Trump's policies, his legislation, everything on the right track? Because we can't afford to lose 2026.
Right.
We can't.
Well, I think people have, he's got a bill that's going through right now, the big beautiful bill as he calls it. There's some things I like. There's some things I don't like necessarily about it. We've got to bring costs down. We got to bring spending down.
Right.
We can't keep going in trillions of dollars into debt, and that's hard for a lot of legislators that go to Congress, and they're trying to make their constituents happy. There are we've got to get that down. We've got to get costs down, and we've got to get jobs returning, good paying jobs back here in the United States, where people feel good about what's going on. I mean, a lot of people don't feel good about where they're at right now.
Of course.
And so we've got to get people feeling good about where they're at, that there's competition for their skill set, that there is opportunity for them. And, I think if he does that, if he does all those things, that I think that'll be a benefit in 2 years,
Yeah.
and then again when the next presidential election is up.
See, there's always hope, viewers. I've said this since the very first episode. There's always hope in the world, and especially for this election period for 2026 and 2028. We just had to keep that momentum going, and especially,
Well, I used the word opportunity when we first started talking, and I said Trump's got a lot of opportunity.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you come from a bad situation, I've seen this in my life too.
Mm-hmm.
You step into a job that things just aren't going well. Maybe you step into situations that something's gone wrong. There's a lot of opportunity to improve it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even that you necessarily have to massively improve it, just incremental improvements. People start to see that, and so he's got opportunity to right some things that went wrong in the last presidential under Biden. He's got an opportunity to fix those things. If he fixes those, it just magnifies how much good he's doing. So if he could just return us back to a normal state of what we're used to, things being made in the United States, we're not spending like crazy,
Yeah.
and returns us to a sense of normalcy. I mean, that is exactly what we would need for Republicans, conservatives, which there's a difference, um, to have success in 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, and beyond. So, there's opportunities the key word.
Of course. So, Neal, I wanted to bring upon another question for you for 2026 and 2028. Everybody sees the Republicans as like the party of was it non-minorities, or there's no minorities in the Republican Party, or there's just a lot of stigmatism against Republicans.
Yeah.
See, people look at me, and when I wear my Trump hat, or they see my apartment that has like Trump flags everywhere, they
You had
immediately
bumper stickers on your car. I saw
yeah.
it there too.
Whenever people just see that, when they look at me, they're like, how does that correlate? You're Hispanic, yet you're a Republican. How does that work? Or like, what is going on in your thought process? And I'm like, I can only explain it to a couple things. I love America. I want the best for Americans. Any American out there that's struggling or doing anything, there is a chance, there's opportunities to work for you and doing everything you can for them. Number two, Trump has proven his resolve, his leadership in the first term. There was no new wars. There was no there was nothing that made the world a little worse. It
was safer.
It was safer. The only thing that happened was the COVID-19 pandemic, but really that wasn't Trump's fault. It really wasn't. And I hope and pray to God that we get to see a lot more documents from Tulsi Gabbard and everybody else. So, I love just America in general. I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American. And, just look at me. I'm the living embodiment of an American dream. My dad came here wanting a better life, and he did, what evident to this restaurant, and making an empire for himself.
How many La Huertas are there?
I lost track, but I'm probably guessing 55 restaurants.
Really?
4 here in Fort Smith.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Several in Northwest Arkansas, Rogers, Bentonville, those areas. And he has gone through with other restaurants, especially like here in Fort Smith, Gino's Pizza.
Really?
Having like a collaboration with them.
I think he
owns like a little bit of part of it.
That's cool.
So, and I think 1-2 Baskin Robbins over here. He has a little I think he has a small stakeholder.
That's cool.
So he's the living embodiment of the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
He worked night and day for his opportunities, for his kids, for everything else. And I want to embody that too. Hopefully someday I have a wife and kids, and I want to give them that opportunities, give them hope, give them a future to live by. That's my goal. I don't want to have the government give me a lot of handouts. No, that's not what I want to do. If I want to work night and day, I will do it. I will do it, and I'll have it with a smile. So let me ask you this, Neal. Again, going back to Fort Smith here, um, what can Fort Smith people do to get more involved in politics? I mean,
Well, first thing, we've got to pay attention.
mhm.
There's more communication coming out now than ever before.
Sure.
Whether it's through me, which I do a thing every Sunday night. It's called Give Me Five. Just 5 minutes with me where I tell you the things that are going on in Fort Smith, or the things that we're doing from a governance standpoint for our board of directors.
Right.
So we communicate that out. We've got folks that are communicating things via social media, all the news media. I mean, we've got all different kinds of things, but pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention to those things. Become a part of the discussion. I've told people 99% of all my decisions that I make are not informed by anybody. And what I mean is nobody picks up the phone and says, "Hey, Neal, I want you to know a little more about this item, and I'd like you to vote this way or this way." Most people don't do that because nobody's really paying attention. That's why you really have to have the right candidate in, so that you have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do, how they're going to vote, because people aren't paying enough attention. They've got lives, they've got kids, they've got things going on. A lot of people can't do that, but I do encourage you to pay attention to those things, but also get to know your representatives. I never would have reached out to a city director, much less a congressman or state rep or state senator. I never would have done it, but I see the value of it because chances are they're not getting much input either.
No.
And you got to hope you're communicating with them and they know how you feel.
Right.
But a lot of people don't do it. And again, 99% of my votes, nobody ever says, "Hey, here's some things I want you to think about." Now, there are things that come up that people will tell me about, and that's good. I like to hear from them. But by and large, most people don't. But that just really shows you got to know who you're electing, and you got to put the right people in place. So pay attention to that. Get to know your legislators and make contact with them. I've got Congressman Womack's number. I've got folks in Senator Cotton's office that if something's going on, I'll just shoot them a text and just say, "Hey, this happened," or "This is going on," just to keep them aware of it. And so I try to keep them in the loop, but then also their constituents. They need to hear from their constituents. So, that's really important.
Yeah.
If you're not electing the right people and you're not informing them what you believe and how you want them to vote, they're going to vote how they want to vote. And so I think that's really important. It's important for your city directors, your state reps to get out and be a part of the community. And they are. Most of these people are. I've got 5 kids. We're in soccer, we're in basketball, we're out and about, but all of these people are just like you and me. All these representatives are just like you and me. They need to hear from us. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that people need to do is to get in contact with their reps and let them know how they think.
Of course. See, viewers, originally met Neal for his campaign. What was it, 3 years ago? I think it was
3 years ago. Yeah.
3 years. Spoke to him. He needed some help getting door knockers and phone bankers and all that stuff. And
This guy was awesome. I mean, I never knew him before, and he's just every weekend at nights during the week, he's out knocking on doors for state reps, for me, for governor, for Congress. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was amazing, and now we can we can have lunch together here. But it was amazing that he did that. He just showed up. I mean, in my mind, you show up out of nowhere, have no idea who you are, and he's just working so hard for everybody. So that was awesome. I think that was awesome.
See, and viewers, I'll put in the links in the description. But if you want to get more involved in politics, talk to the Sebastian County the Sebastian County Young Republicans and the Sebastian County
Republican
Party.
Committee. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I have some contacts with them over there. So if you're in Fort Smith and you feel a calling to go door knocking or phone banking for these guys, it's worth it.
Yep.
Take it from me. Long nights, long days in this humid atmosphere. And viewers, I'm just going to tell you this right now. It feels like an oven outside. It feels.
Today's not too bad. I ran this morning.
Okay.
It's not too bad, but it tomorrow will be awful.
Yeah. So just have that call. If you have that calling, do it. Do it. You're not going to regret it. And especially, like, if we do something here in Fort Smith, you come here to La Huerta. I'll treat y'all to a good La Huerta feast. We can work something out to where we can get you guys some drinks and have a good time here, especially if you're of drinking age. We'll have a good time.
Yes, yes.
But no, I mean, it's my treat to you guys.
I will say this: there is something really cool about knocking on doors. I mean, you're in neighborhoods, you're meeting people. People are coming out to their car and you're dropping off door hangers. I mean, it's really pretty cool. You see how they live. You see how folks in this neighborhood lives versus this neighborhood. You see problems. Like I see a water leak there. I can call it in and say, hey, we got a water leak here. They'll tell you about problems that they're having that you could help fix. I mean, it's really, that's the essence of being a politician is going to where somebody is, being in their domain, and just listening to them. It's really cool. It really is cool. It's very rewarding. So yeah, if you have a campaign you want to work on, I've got one for you. But yeah, it's really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah. So
and learn from this guy. From this guy.
I've been in so many campaigns over the years. Some good, some bad. I won't dive too much into those.
And sometimes you lose. I mean, so the first time I ran to be a city director, I think it was in 2016. I lost. I mean, it was probably my best campaign that I had. I mean, it went really well, but I was running up against somebody that was really, really tough to beat, and I lost. And I was so tired for like 2 years. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it again. But I knew that I'd put in all that work, all that effort, all that time, that I knew I had to do it again. And so I ended up running again, and I ran unopposed. That's the way to do it. Run unopposed. That is the best way.
It really is the best way. I mean, it's easier for us, like campaign workers and stuff like that, especially just going to those doors and just putting those signs there, knowing that there's no opposition.
Yeah.
But no, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And especially you get to meet cool people like this guy. And Neal, when does your term end?
It ends in 20. So I'm up for election in November next year.
November next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So viewers, I'm going to put all the description down below. So get in touch. And Neal, is it all right if I put your socials?
Yeah, definitely. Check out. Facebook is really where I'm the most active because that's where I've got the most followers. But yeah, if you want to just check out some of the stuff I'm doing, and check out my Sunday video. It's called "Give Me 5."
Yeah,
check it out and come be a part of it.
Of course. And if you ever see Neal out in public, come up to him. He's a good
Yes,
guy. Like, I
yes.
mean, if you have questions and complaints or frustrations or whatever, this is the guy to talk
Definitely.
This is the guy to talk to. So, viewers, this has been one great lunch.
You got to get out to La Huerta. You've got to get out. Get the Steven special named after this guy. I like mine with veggies. He does his with his is regular, but with ketchup. I don't know about that, but get it with veggies. Get the homemade flour tortillas. These things are awesome.
Oh yeah.
Get those. Make a little burrito or a little taco out of it. I like a little what the green cilantro. Get a little cilantro, put it in your salsa, put it in your taco.
Oh yeah.
That's the way to do it.
It's the way to do it. And Fort Smith has, I believe, 4 locations. One downtown Garrison, one in Towson, here in Old Greenwood, and another one in Rogers, right next to the mall.
Right.
You can't miss them. You'll see them everywhere. We're all over the place, and we have several in other locations too. But just come down to La Huerta.
Yeah.
You won't regret it.
Yeah.
You won't regret it. So viewers, we're gonna sign out. I'll catch you next time in episode 6.
See y'all.
See ya.